In this video, we're going to look at how to revise for physics exams. So I'm going to give you 5 tips on how to do so. If you watch until the end, I'm going to give you the 6th bonus tip, which can help you. So please watch until the end. Without getting any further, please let's remember to subscribe to the Physics Tips for Cambridge Students YouTube channel. Hit the notification bell so that you get alerted of my future videos. Right, so tip number 1, you must shrink your revision notes. Revision is very, very important when it comes to preparation of exams. So please, you must always shrink what you revise. Okay, so tip number 1, you must shrink what you revise. You should mark all the things that you keep forgetting or important. Okay, all the important things must be marked. And remember, I said you should also mark those things which you keep on forgetting. They could be formulas, they could be definitions, they could be descriptions, and so forth. Remember my video on command words, or yes, in exams, you should also pay attention to that. Flashcards can also help you when it comes to remembering formulae. Okay, so flashcards are very important in this. That is, you make flashcards for every topic, and then just before the exam or day before, 2 days before the exam, you can now go through all the flashcards. So you can have one side of the flashcard having a question, like what is the definition of density, and then the other side now having the answer, which is the mass per unit volume of a substance. So flashcards do help. When it comes also for formulae, you can say what is the formula for acceleration, and then on the flip side you have the correct formula. So these flashcards, they help you to revise, and you can also have what are called revise cards. Okay, so revision cards will help you again just before the exam to revise, right? And then you have what are called memorize cards. So those concepts that you need to memorize. If means formulae, that's an AE. Then also for definitions, you need what are called memorize cards. Okay. Then you have what are called test cards. Now, test cards are the ones that you then use for testing yourself. Okay. So all these fall under the flashcards. For physics, we also have what are called practical cards. Okay. So this applies to IGCSE candidates. Okay. So practical cards, you then ask yourself, what is the experiment that is used? Suppose you want to do lenses, okay, or you want to show reflection. So that is the practical card. So on the flip side, you then list the apparatus that is needed. This is particularly helpful for those that do the alternative to practical. You list all those, and then you should be able to remember. Remember also my video on how to do design questions for the IGCSE students. So this will help you again, the practical cards, so that you identify the variables, the dependent variable. You identify, say for an experiment for measuring the speed of sound, you identify the variables, you identify also the variable that is going to be kept constant, and also the conditions that are necessary for the experiment to be a success. So all these will help you as you shrink your revision notes. So that was tip number 1. Now tip number 2, don't skip important concepts. So important concepts must not be skipped. So so you see clarity on those. Okay, sorry. Tip number 2 now. So you seek clarity on those concepts that you do not know. Okay. So suppose you do not remember some important concepts, you can always go back to Google and then ask. That is from revision notes, okay, from other sites, as well as your textbook as well. So what I'm saying here is you highlight important concepts, you highlight them, and then you make sure you write them down also on those flashcards that I talked about, or wherever you're shrinking your notes. Okay, so very, very important to have concept clarity. Then tip number 3, you do not postpone revision. If you have scheduled for you to do certain revision of concepts, please make sure that you do them and accomplish them, finish all the topics in time. So from the time that the timetable will be out for exams, that's the time that you really must start revising. So about 6 weeks before the actual exam, you start doing that. So you schedule, you can sit down with a friend or with your parents, whoever it is, a guardian, and then try and work out something so that you cover all the topics. So what I normally suggest is for you to do topical papers. So what do I mean by topical papers? The topics, like the exam papers that are arranged in topics. So from the first topic, physical quantities and units, going on and on, doing all the topical papers or topical questions from these papers. Okay, so it's the questions that you'll be doing. And then from there, you can now do the yearly papers. So those that are now from 2016 onwards for this current syllabus, it's going to change, but from 2016 onwards, you do those papers. Chances are that you meet the same questions that you'd have done as topical. So you do not postpone. So the date that you set that you're going to start, make sure that you stick to that and you finish all the topics in time. Then when you finish the topics in time, that's when you go back now to tip number 1, whereby you are now shrinking what you have revised and so forth. So make sure that you do that. It's very, very important. Then moving on to tip number 4. Tip number 4 is called the 80-20 rule. Okay, which is the Pareto principle. So this 80-20 rule states that 80% of marks come from 20% of effective study. So 80% of your marks will come from 20% of effective study. So which means you need to make sure that you embark on very, very effective study. What I mean here is you must study smart. By studying smart, it just means that you start off with the important part of the syllabus first. What do I mean by important part of the syllabus? Important part of the syllabus refers to that part of the syllabus where most of the marks come from. So you study past papers and see which questions normally carry the most marks. And then you focus on your study on that. And then make sure that you get those concepts. So those are very important concepts because those are the ones that determine whether you're going to pass or not. So you start off with those important concepts which are important, which are on the syllabus. And then you look at the most frequently asked questions. So most frequently asked questions come next. Okay, so in the topic, so every syllabus has got its own way in which you're asked to define. You find one syllabus may say define electric field with only 1 mark. The other syllabus comes then says define electric field, 2 marks. So you then need to go back to the syllabus and see the way it is supposed to be defined according to that syllabus. So it's very important to read your syllabus. I think it's one of the tips again. You're supposed to read the syllabus and understand all the words, the definitions, everything that is added, everything that has been removed, so that you don't study for something that's not coming. So make sure that you have the copy of the syllabus, highlight those areas in your syllabus so that you make sure of all the definitions and all the important formulae that you need to remember. Right, then moving on to the 5th tip. This one is as equally important as the rest, to avoid burnout. What do I mean by avoid burnout? You must not sleep for less hours. Okay, so your sleep should be 6 to 8 hours a day. Okay, don't sleep for less than that. And you should also do your daily exercise. Do not skip that part. If you have got your favorite sport, please go and play as much as you work. Eat healthy, very, very important again, so that you don't fall sick on the day of the exam. If you eat healthy, it will also help you to have a good memory. So you have a good memory from that. And also it will help you with concentration. Sleeping early or sleeping the right amount of hours helps your concentration. Also, the brain speed is also, studies have shown that brain speed is also helped by sleeping early and eating healthy. Right, so moving on to the bonus tip for those that have managed to watch until this time, we are going to move on to that. The 6th tip is none other but the one which says, always remain positive. Do not ever entertain negative thoughts as you are revising. Always tell yourself that I'm working hard. You must tell yourself that I'm going to pass. This is very important. And tell yourself also that I'm not tired. So that you fulfill all the obligations that you're supposed to fulfill just before the exam. Right, so very important for you to remain positive. So fill your subconscious with positive thoughts. I'm not tired, I'm calm, I'm relaxed. Say it with emotion. Okay, this is important. Say this with emotion, so that you fool your brain for the right thing. Fool your brain to have the positive mindset. Right, so I think this marks the end of these 5 tips. Please remember to subscribe to the channel and make sure that you like and you share this video to as many candidates that you think might find this helpful. Right, signing out.